They tell me you're a man with true grit.
What do you want, girl? Speak up at supper time.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to drop the hammer on the fastest podcast on the planet. I'm your host and former IMCA Modified National Champion Shane Davis, and I want to welcome, I've got two guests on the show tonight, three-time IMCA Late Model National Champion, and the list just goes on and on, Ray Guss Jr. and his beautiful wife, Julie. How you two doing tonight?
Wow, beautiful.
Thanks, Shane.
All right.
Just beautiful as her.
That's right. So we're going to start off first saying we're going to pay the bills here, so we're going to read a quick ad. Thank you for today's sponsor, Done Right TV and Security, for supporting the True Grit podcast, alongside our dirt racing pay-per-view services that Done Right offers right outside our live studio is the retail store with television, internet, video production, smart home, and security technology in our brick-and-mortar retail store. Stay tuned later on to the show for more on Done Right in a moment. Okay, we're going to talk about some of the racing action here just very quickly here. We'll touch on it Thursday night up there at Jackson County Speedway, Lucas Oil MLRA. Missouri's Tony Jackson Jr. came through, picked up the win, $3,000 to win, our two cars. Jeremiah Hurst finished third, and fourth place was the 59. So a couple of good runs for those cars. Friday night, we were at Davenport Speedway, hauling with Hoker East Series. Andy Eckridge picked up the 3,000 win show there. Ryan Doom won the mod show. Ben Champman won the sport mod show. And Tony Vondresky with the street stock, and Kyle Hawkins with the four-cylinder cars. So that is kind of what happened over the weekend. We didn't have rain. We had a lot of rainouts last week. But, Ray, let's kind of get into you and Julie's story. Now, we've known each other a lot of years. Let's roll the clock way back. Way back. You're running flat track. I got down 1972, you were racing flat track. But it was back in the 70s, I remember as a kid.
Definitely somewhere in the early 70s. Because I raced, before I even raced flat track, I went one time and did a motocross over in Davenport.
Yeah.
And that's what my dad, when I did that, I got third overall in the thing, my first race ever. And so my dad comes home from work one day from IH. He says, "What do you want to do, Ray?" He says, "You want to race a go-kart?" Because I had a go-kart too then, a racing kart. But I couldn't get it started. Neither could he, so it didn't go very fast. But so anyway, he says, "Or do you want to trade that go-kart off for a flat track bike?"
Yeah.
I was instantly wanted the flat track bike. I said I wanted to do that. Luckily, he traded that off for a little Hodaka 100 that was set up for flat track. And then that's how I got started my racing career. And my dad said finally, after he traded that go-kart, well, at least he found out, after they got the go-kart, they found out there was a hole in the piston. That's why it wouldn't start.
Okay. So, hey, Julie, talk about Smitty, your grandfather, and how you and Ray connected, through that connection.
My grandparents owned Tri-City Motorcycle Sales many years in downtown Rock Island, but actually Ray's grandmother, Dolores, and my grandmother, Pearl, were best of friends growing up. They belonged to the Motor Maids, and they rode across the country in their motorcycles.
Oh, my.
So our families knew each other well before we were even born.
Oh, boy. All right.
If they only knew.
Yeah, there you go. So, hey, we move forward a little bit. We get to high school. You and I are in high school in 1975. Yeah. 75, 76, we got kicked out the first day for doing donuts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so,
I remember that.
When it come over the PA, it said, "Would the following students please report to the office?" Ray Guss and Shane Davis. I'm like, oh, man, here we go.
Yeah, what'd we do?
Yeah, so we cut some time off our sentence up there at Rocky.
Yeah.
We didn't have to go to school for a couple of days.
3 days it was.
3 days it was. God,
3 days.
I just remember my dad coming home and he's like, "Now, son, don't you get enough of that racing on the weekends? Then you got to go up there and do donuts." But, Man, you had a hot Chevelle. Was that like a 68 Chevelle, Ray?
Yes, it was. It was a 68.
And the engine in it, 355 or what was in that
Yeah,
thing?
it was a 350. My dad did a little work on it. He didn't want to go too far away on it, get too hopped up because he knew I'd get in trouble.
Well, then we know now that it was his fault.
Yeah.
If he hadn't put that big motor in there.
Well, I remember it snowed that day and the parking lot was empty. We weren't hurting nobody.
Hey, we're just
having
out there.
some fun.
We're racers, man. We want to turn some circles and let it all hang out.
That's right.
Oh, my God. So, Julie, you were a cheerleader up at Rocky.
Yes.
You
wrestling.
were?
Wrestling.
Yes.
Wrestling.
I like
cheerleader.
that.
Yeah.
And so, boy, the next thing you know, you guys are dating. Now, Ray, the first car I remember you having was the number 17 car.
You're right.
Now, that was, I think, Mailer Concrete sponsored that.
Yes, they did.
Did your dad build that from scratch? Or?
Oh, this was a heck of a story there. My dad was in Champaign, Illinois for a special.
Okay.
And he won the last chance qualifier to get into the feature.
All right.
He did. Tri-City Buggy had put up a chassis.
Wow.
Yeah, for a contingency. So he went down to get it. Well, guess what? The chassis was nothing but a bent roll cage and tubing.
Okay.
There was nothing welded. So he put it in the attic of his garage. And then after I had raced, I had moved myself up to being there was novice, and then there was junior class and AMA, flat track.
Yeah.
And junior class, you jumped on 750.
All right.
So just before I was 17, I jumped on a 750, started racing that. Well, my folks didn't like that. That was too much bike.
Okay.
And they decided, hey, I've got that roll cage laying up in the attic. How about putting you on 4 wheels? And he did no jig, went and measured a Sanger chassis.
Yeah.
And did it with a tape measure on the floor of the garage with no, and I'll tell you what, the car was pretty good because he drove it the first year in 78 because Ron Sanders, Poochie they call him.
Yeah, Poochie Sanders, yeah.
Yes. When he drove for him, he decided to park the car that year of 78.
Okay.
So my dad he'd come to me and says, oh, I had got hurt at work, my right foot, I was laid up for a while.
All right.
And so he said, why don't I just drive this for you for this year? Being he was out of a ride, and he says, you can just keep the winnings and help pay for, because I just spent all my life savings to build a race car, you know. So he turned around, and he was getting top 5s in that thing all the time. He won a couple, but most all top 5s all
Good
the time.
car.
Yeah, and he did it with a tape measure.
All right.
He was handy.
So that car, you know, the next car that I remember was the number 12 car, and it had Mr. Roadster on the side of it. It was a light blue Camaro.
Okay, that one there.
Was that a different car, Ray?
That would have been, yes, that was a Rayburn chassis.
Okay. So the 17 car, the first time you drove that, was it on the half mile at Davenport, or where was that at?
I believe it, yes, it was on a half mile, I think, the first time I drove it.
Okay.
But then in 79, when my dad got to ride with Ray Neltner,
right,
75 in Peoria, I went to the 12 then. See, I took the 17 because my dad was still in 12. He said, let's just pick a number close to that, and nobody was running. So that's how I came up with 17 at the time. But then I took over the 12 in 79 because Dad went with 75 car.
Right, fast car.
Yeah, real good car.
My God.
Yeah, they was a very good car.
You know, those Neltners, you know, I got to say, out of all the cars you drove, Ray, that white car, it was just iconic with that big bright orange 75 on it. And I'm a guy that likes big, bright numbers.
Yep.
And I remember you had, back then, I forgot if MRT was making them, but the big discs were fluorescent orange that you had for mud plugs on the wheel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool car. But hey, I want to get back to the 12 car. So I remember the night over at Davenport you run on the half mile. Now tell me, was the night you went for a ride in the Mr. Roadster car, was that you and Julie's first stock car date?
It was her first race, yes, I ever gone to see me race. She went to a couple motorcycle races in the past, but her first one, she had, I think, her mom up there and her grandmother and my grandmother, and they were all up there. And that was a pretty bad wreck.
It was a bad wreck.
Yeah.
Was the deal you're just saying, hey, man, if she'll put up with this, she'll put up with anything?
No, I didn't have that intention.
I mean, my God, Ray, I replay that in my mind, and I think, I was worried you were hurt because that.
Oh, I was knocked out for I remember the last thing I do remember the whole thing. Still don't remember none of the wreck.
Yeah.
Is I woke up in the emergency room and looked around and I seen a clock said 10 minutes to 11.
Oh,
so I was out
for
quite
a
a while.
long time.
Yes.
All right.
That's what happened to me. I messed up.
Now, what happened to that wreck, Ray? What caused all that?
I don't know. Like I say, I was in the mid pack towards the back, and something must have happened to where a big pileup started happening right in the middle of the back chute where you're wide open, fastest part.
God.
And I just went sailing through the air, and then all I don't know is it did a lot of tumbling.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. So that car was junk.
That's that about ended my career actually, right?
Really?
There. It seriously did. So in '81, when I destroyed that car,
Yeah.
I had, like I told you, I had all my money that I had in the world was all put into racing.
Okay.
I had nothing else.
Yeah.
And I told my dad then, I says, this is a mess. Because it was a Rayburn car. I'd had it a little over a year. And I said, I can't afford to put this stuff back together. I'm just pretty much wiped out. I'm done. Well, my dad had took that Rayburn chassis and built a jig.
Yeah.
So he built that winter, he rebuilt my car again,
Okay.
81 and 82, to just keep me racing, or otherwise I was done. I was seriously done. I hadn't won one feature yet in the 3 years.
Yeah.
I'd won heat races and stuff, but I'd never
Okay.
won a feature.
Right.
And we know we're all there. We want to win the feature.
Yeah.
So when that had happened, I just said, I'm done. I haven't won nothing.
Yeah.
And I've spent all my money. And he said, nah, we'll fix it up. I'll get you. I can't believe it, but we got married then in '82 in April.
Wow.
And then the opening weekend of East Moline
Yeah.
come up on Sunday.
Yeah.
I won my first feature.
There you go.
See?
You know what? It was getting married.
Yeah.
The good Lord bless you.
Yeah.
No, you know what, Ray? I watched you in the early days, and I thought, heck, I was still trying to find my way.
Right.
But, my dad always said to me, you can look at a driver, and, whether they spin out or whatever they do, you can see they don't have that fear. And they're going to be a good race driver. And so, I felt that way about you. I thought, man, Ray's going to be okay. You just need seat time.
Right.
And so,
Right.
man, like you say, 82, you win your first feature. Now, what car are you driving in '82 when you won that race?
Actually, the car my dad had built off of that jig that
Okay.
he jigged the Rayburn car that he completely built once again.
Yeah.
And I won my first race. I
In
never
that
did
car?
it in that Rayburn car, but I did it in that maker that he had built.
Okay.
And I won my first. Actually, that year we went on. I won 10 races and a point title at Peoria.
Yeah. So your dad was, like an icon. And I mean, back in those days, he was the man. He was one of the top late model drivers that, I ever seen. And at what point did you end up coming over to the Neltner team, Ray?
Okay, they 1983. They wanted to go race a Miller 100 at Macon Speedway.
Okay.
Okay, Macon, if some people ain't seen it, is a very, very tiny little racetrack. And at this time, I had never seen it.
It's not even a bull ring.
No, it's
You're going to hit people when you run Macon.
exactly.
I mean, come on. And you see some of them guys, they got the right rear on the wall going down the straightaways because you're like in a bowl. I mean,
It's
it's
real
just
very
crazy.
tiny for a race car. it
Yeah.
is.
So you're
And
driving the 75 then?
They called and wanted my dad to go to this special because it
Okay.
was a weekday.
Yeah.
So my dad said, "No, just call Ray and see if he wants to."
Okay.
So they called me up, and I at first I wasn't sure, but I said, "All right, I'll go." Well, then my mom and dad took off. He took off work anyway and went with us.
What?
Yeah.
Well, was that part of the plan or what?
No, I don't know what it was.
Okay.
But that was my first time sitting in their car late fall. It was towards fall of '83.
Okay.
100-lap special on Little Macon Speedway.
Little
I
Macon,
ran,
oh my gosh.
I ran 5th pretty much a lot of the race.
All right.
Next thing you know, I started picking off like Dick Taylor and Roger Long, and Bob Pierce was leading.
Yeah.
I run him down and passed him for the lead with just, less than 15 laps to go.
My God.
Afterwards, he protested saying he knew I was a lap car is why he let me by.
Oh, my God. There you go. I like that one. Yeah, I never heard that one.
So I won my first race sitting in the seat of that car.
Oh,
my
my
first
gosh.
race with them. And never seen Macon Speedway before.
And that's, one of those. We got a picture
There
up
it
there
is.
right
There it
now.
is. See that.
There's the number 12 car, and that.
CJ Rayburn. Yeah.
That's right. I love that car. It was beautiful, and it looked beautiful there before the wreck. That was one we were talking about that you dumped down the backstretch, at Davenport.
Well, that's when I first got it because that's why it had CJ Rayburn. We got it in 80.
Okay.
In the summer of 80, around July or August.
Yeah.
And then 81 is when I picked up Mr. Roadster as a sponsor.
Okay, so that replaced the CJ
Yep.
Rayburn.
Yep.
I remember that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, so you're in the 75 car. Tell me about the Neltners. How'd you like driving for them? I mean, to me, they had a top flight team in that era.
Yes.
It.
And you would not believe this guy lived down in Peoria, down where he had nothing.
Yeah.
He was down in
There's the wreck,
that's
right
after
there.
It was wrecked.
Now that thing, there ain't a straight panel on it, and it was horrific seeing it. I was up in the stands that night, and so I seen it from the grandstands, and you're on that backstretch at Davenport, and all heck just broke loose.
Oh, I know. It was
wow,
it was something
what a
else.
ride. Okay. We got a picture of the 75 in there we'll get to.
Okay.
All right. So finish your story. You won Macon. Bob Pierce, Pierce race cars. Bobby Pierce now driving, Dad's car.
Oh, definitely.
And, man, he, if you beat Bob Pierce,
There it is.
let's go to that 75
Yeah,
picture
there's
there.
75.
I remember in 1987 we run a IMCA National Mod Show down at Princeton Speedway, and there you are in that 75 car. Ray, now you're gonna think I'm crazy. I was gonna bring him today. We race those little toy cars. So the one that I race in late model is that car.
Is it?
The 75. And I also have your 58 car, the red one. I've got the later 58 you drove after that. I just loved all those cars. And then, a lot of great memories. And, man, look at how slim and trim you were there.
I see that.
Man,
Darn.
we're going to have to get on a treadmill, right?
You're right.
Come on. So, hey, tell the race fans out there, some of them probably wonder, the scarf you wore over your face. Your dad wore one, you wore one. Why'd you wear that scarf?
Okay, I even asked my dad that one time. I kind of just did it at first, not even knowing the reason.
Sure. All right.
Just Dad did it, and
You
I
look
thought,
cool.
you're cool, Dad. That's cool.
You got to wear one.
So he said he always wore open face helmets. See, he didn't run the full face helmet. He looked like the
Right.
Dale Earnhardt days. See,
He did, boy.
okay. So he did that. He said to keep the dust out of his nose and mouth.
Okay, makes a lot of sense.
That made sense after, and I thought, well, I've been wearing this all the time for that, huh?
That's
I
good.
didn't know.
So S&K Chevrolet, they were a big sponsor on the car. Where did all the money come from for the 75 cars? Because I remember your dad driving one of the cars up here, and at some point you were out traveling,
Right.
and I'd see your dad up at East Moline every Sunday night, which he'd win the feature, and he was tearing them up, and then you were out on road racing.
We was on the road a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes, we were.
where did the money come from for that?
They were not rich.
Okay.
They lived down in the ghetto of Peoria.
All right.
Actually, we would be out there, and there was one night, I still remember this today. One night I was down there helping them on the car,
Okay.
and here come some guys down the road, around the alley. They were in the alley. And I looked, I said, that one guy there looks like Richard Pryor. It was Richard
No,
Pryor.
it wasn't. Now, come on, Ray.
He walked in the garage.
He
and
was from
see-
Peoria, though, right?
Yes, he
Yeah.
was. It was his hometown, and he's
Yeah.
from that area.
Okay.
And he come walking by, and he said, wow, he come up all excited about a race car. He said, can I sit? And I said, you sure can. Get in there. And
Yeah.
Richard Pryor sat in that car.
Man, he had that movie Grease Lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why weren't you in it, Ray? Come
Yeah,
on.
I know.
You knew
I
the
don't
guy.
know what the deal was there.
This picture I love.
Yeah.
I loved your dad. And I'll tell you one thing about your dad was, when I started out in street stock, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I'd go by your house and, anything I'd ask your dad, he'd tell me. A lot of the drivers, and, I'm not going to mention names. I don't want somebody, sending me hate emails.
Oh,
but,
that's fine.
But, I went up to, a lot of drivers said, hey, I need help with this. And I didn't understand how to balance the car and, things of that nature. what shocks to run and all that, gears, and they wouldn't tell you. It was there. It was a tight kept secret. And when I went up to your dad and talked to him, he's like, "Oh, okay, try this, try that," and he just wants to see somebody out there racing in a car. And so as we fast forward, you're driving for the Roberts Motorsports team. I was just so happy that your dad got up here to help out with the car.
Definitely.
And I'm going to say something. It almost looked like you got faster when your dad started tuning the car. Did you?
That's what a lot of people said then.
Yeah.
That, he come up helping on the car, but
sure,
he still wasn't really our setup man.
Yeah.
But
it's my heart. I'm going.
I know.
Ray was the man. He had to have been turning wrenches on that thing.
He was, and he loved doing that. He loved working on race cars, and he loved coming up here. When I got with the Roberts team,
okay,
he just loved coming up here. He would actually stay longer than they normally would in that summer when he was up here to do that. This is, I think this was the summer that he started getting really bad. The cancer started getting him pretty bad.
This is, now you're talking about your dad.
Yes, my dad. Yes.
Okay. Now, the cancer with Herschel, I remember him driving up at Macokota, and you could tell it was wearing on him, but I thought, being around that race car was keeping him alive.
Exactly.
So, you win the first national title in 2010, and then 11, I'm promoting up at East Moline Speedway, and I remember Herschel Roberts coming into my office at the beginning of the season, and he wanted to get pit passes for the entire crew. But, I knew he was sick. And,
Yes.
my heart went out to that guy. And I remember him sitting down in the chair, and he looks at me, and he's like, "Well, Shane, what can I do to help you out?" And I thought,
Herschel
here's a
was
man.
that way.
That described to me just exactly the way I felt about Herschel all through the years. He was there to help anybody he could. And even in his time when, his health was failing,
Yep.
he still wanted to know, hey, how can I help? And, he
That's
kind of
Herschel.
flabbergasted me, and I'm usually not at a loss for words, but I just kind of sat back in the chair, and I thought, man, Herschel, just, thanks, we're doing okay.
Oh,
But he was just a great guy.
I know he was. I couldn't believe. My dad said the same thing about him. He said after he come up and we started working with the car, he said, "Man, I've known Herschel all these years and raced with him, but I didn't know him as a person like that." He said, "I wished I would have got to know him a lot sooner."
All right. Well, hey, we got to pay the bills. Let's
Sure.
talk about Done Right TV again. Thank you once again to Done Right TV and Security for sponsoring this episode. And thank you to the Done Right family once again for supporting the show from the roots as our show is growing. In Suit is expanding as well, and with a short and decisive sponsor slot throughout the production of the show. The Done Right family has a wide variety of products and services that they offer, from the production backbone that is powering our show to smart home and vehicles and the ever-expansive list of products that are but not limited to televisions, internet, security cameras, and other security equipment, OTA, and it is faster and more reliable than ever. Call today at 563-355-7490 or visit Done Right Family right here at our studios. We're at right now at 1414 West Locust Street, Davenport, Iowa. There we go. We paid the bills. So, Ray, the 75 car, how many years did you drive that ride?
Well, on and off. At first, it was 84, 85, 86. Then 87, I went somewhere else.
Okay.
Went back to them in 88.
Is that when you went to Commerce Shores or
Yeah.
what?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
Driving
sir.
for Richie
That
Cummer. I
one year,
remember that. Yeah.
Yep. Shores, it was Richie Cummer, right, and Bill Shores, okay?
Yeah.
Bill Shores, the one come ask me if I'd come drive for him.
Okay.
And I said, well, I was kind of comfortable with 75, but I thought, well, I'll try something different. And we went and tried that, and I didn't even last the whole year. I was back in the 75 before that year was
good.
over.
Well, you know what?
Well, Bill Shores quit right before the season started.
Oh, my.
So we only had Richie Cummer owning the whole thing.
Right.
And sometimes him and I didn't see eye to eye, but
That's part of being a driver.
Yeah.
I think, when you look at racing partnerships, man, if you can make it 5 years. I mean, you've really done something because so many partnerships. You know, you go 2-3 years, and then the wheels come off, and that's that. Yeah. So, at what point did you start driving the yellow 50?
He called me, believe it or not, in '88. He called me to drive. Actually, it was late, or I would say late for starting the season, '88. Okay. And I told him, I'm sorry, but 75, I already promised I'd stick with them in '88. So he recalled me after '88 season, between '88 and '89, and asked me again.
There we go.
Yeah.
Right there. That's Peoria.
So I went.
Day we brought Evan home from the hospital, Ray went to Oxford to
talk to Penny and Larry Eckridge at Precision Performance about the ride. And so we got together, and '89.
What a great decision.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful people.
I mean, aren't they the best?
Yes.
You know, and what that number 50 car was iconic, and Roger Dolan drove the car.
Yes.
He had a lot of success in that car. And when you climbed in that yellow 50, Ray, there's drivers out there that are cowboys. Man, they got the hammer locked to the floor, and they're gonna, beat and bang off anybody, that they can to get to the front. The one thing I always liked about you is, you'd unload the car, and when you got ready to load it up at the end of the night, it looked the same. It wasn't all beat to heck. But most nights you were just always smooth as glass. You always amazed me how smooth you were out on the racetrack. And that 50 car was the same way.
Oh, they had an unreal. I mean, they had an asphalt car that he turned in and put on dirt.
How do you do that?
Yeah,
a Howe car.
A Howe car. I know. I mean, that's what always made me wonder. Wow, how is this thing going to go? But I got with him in '89, and we went 3 years in a row winning the Central Region Championship in NASCAR.
I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. Now, the trailing arms on those Howe cars, were they like truck arms, or what they have on?
He had different ones. They just usually had the 2-arm suspension.
Right.
And he did finally get a truck arm one. It wasn't quite as good, that truck arm one.
All right.
But when we went back to the 2-bar setup, it went a lot better. Yeah. But he had some great motors in that car. He used to go buy Winston Cup U stuff.
Okay.
And then build his own motors.
Yeah.
But man, did they run. I know in '89 and '90, them first 2 years with him, he raced all the time. 90-some nights was nothing in the summer. And we'd win. We won 48 and then won 47 another year.
Come on. I mean, how do you do that? You say that. I think back, I tell people, best year I ever had was '87. I won 36 features.
Yes.
And to me, that was like, and when you think about it, Ray, people go their entire career and maybe they don't even win a feature.
You're right.
And so you're really blessed to, crank off those kind of feature wins. I mean, it was just amazing.
Blessed,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk, before we forget about it, a couple of people. Our classmate, Chicky Cole, that used to help you down in pits.
Yep.
I just want to bring up his name because he was a good friend and a great guy. And
big time. That's one thing that I miss a lot. We see his brother Billy, the younger Billy. He's a wild one, but
he is, boy.
We have a good time with him when he's around. I said before Chicky passed, I had 3 guys that helped me out.
Yeah.
When I first started, Mike McGrew.
I remember Mike.
Yep.
He's gone.
Gary Carmichael.
And he's gone.
Mm-hmm. And Chicky Cole.
And I've
lost all 3 of them now. And that was really my first 3
crew
serious
guys,
help. Yes.
You think about it, life is a gift. Every day is a gift when you wake up and you breathe in, and, your health is your wealth. And so you and I are still pretty lucky to still be out there. I say to people, I'm 62 years old, and there's a lot of young announcers out there, and they're coming out, and they got new ideas, and they're flashy. And, I just thank God every day that I'm able to still jump behind a mic. Best job in the world, get to watch you guys race. Yeah. When you were in the vintage car and you went out there at Liberty and, wherever you went, you won. To me, when I went out, I wanted to get in that picture. I thought, you know what? Ray and I, we go back, the kids. And so I want to have a picture of that. And, you never know when the good Lord's going to call you home. So I thought it meant a lot to me. And so I want you to talk, too, about your sister Debbie, your kids, your mom. I mean, I remember those days as your dad's days were winding down. Your mom's right there, too, having a can of beer. And
Always.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Always.
Having a can of beer. But,
yeah, it's part of racing.
She kind of took him south, though, and I went to Georgia.
And the whole story there was a Case Company shut down their transmission plant down on Mill Street in Rock Island.
Yes.
And we had a lot of great racers and a lot of money that had to go south.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, Ray, now that your dad's gone, your mom just basically built a life down there, and her plans are to stay down in Georgia now?
Definitely. She actually is in the same house they were living in.
Okay.
Bought it when they moved down there, so
Yeah.
they've been in the same house for, 30 years now or something.
Okay.
And my sister Debbie, you mentioned her, she moved down there.
Okay.
Doing real good down there. They have a camper in Alabama, but have a house over there in Calhoun.
Wow. And then, Julie, what about the kids?
Oh, our boys are doing great. Two of them are here in town. One lives in Bettendorf and one in Moline. Our youngest is in St. Louis. They're all doing well, but never was interested in racing. I was lucky that I was able to stay home with them when they were young, and I always asked them if they wanted to go, but they really didn't have ever the desire to go.
I had a son, I've got a son, Joey, and a daughter, Brianna, and they were just never into racing. And my wife said, well, hey, how do you feel about that? And I said, well,
saved you money.
It's okay. Yeah, it really did save us a lot of money, Ray, and a lot of work. We would have had to go through what our dads went through.
Exactly.
But my son, he was kind of a soft-hearted guy, and he always took, if there was a bird out in the alley with a broken wing, he'd pick it up and, want to fix the wing and make it fly again. And he just always had, a very compassionate heart. So he had a good-paying job, and he and his wife, they ended up going to work for the ARC over in Rock Island, the Associated for Retarded Citizens. They both run group homes, and they take care of low-performing adults. And it didn't pay what his job paid, the good-paying job, but to him, it was all about feeling good about helping people, and that meant a lot to him. So I just said, hey, that's the path they took, and, you and I took different paths, but that was okay.
Right.
Yeah,
No, do what you got to do. I didn't ever want to force anybody into something they didn't want to do.
There you go, Ray.
The only way our oldest boy one time was excited about going to the races is because Julie told him that we're going to go to Bluegrass, Iowa.
Yeah.
He was so excited until he got there and said, the grass ain't blue.
Oh, my God. Oh, so, hey, we roll into the years with Herschel Roberts. I mean, Herschel, we'd heard he was sick. Yes. And he was, at one point, I looked at him and I said, man, that's the healthiest looking sick guy I know. He didn't look sick.
His doctor said the same thing.
Yeah. Couldn't believe it.
So how did you get involved with that family and ultimately, because I remember, what year was it you were going to retire the first time, Ray? Was that like
probably 09?
Yeah, that's 09. What I would have guessed. 09.
And that's when he had been asking me since like 2008. He kept asking me, would you run some Deary shows? And I wasn't running all of them because at that time, the only thing I was doing was running that Avenue rental car.
Okay.
That they had.
Yeah, 12. I remember that.
They put 12 on it, my number.
And Herschel had two cars at that time.
No, he's just had the one.
Just had the one, okay.
Just had the one.
All right.
Yes. And, but he flat told me that being his health was a little bit getting worse, that he's hard to handle in 50 laps.
Okay.
That's why he wanted to run the weekly shows, because he could run the 25 laps and still be okay, but the 50 really wore on him, because even 25 was tough. But he asked me, and I kept saying, well, Herschel, Avenue Rental's going to go. We're going to Tom Voss. We're going to go run the car at that race. I'm sorry. I says, if there's some races come up that we're not going to run, I'll let you know. Okay. And so when I told Tom Voss that, he decided we're going to run the whole season, which he never did that.
Okay.
So we had a falling out middle of that summer in 09.
Voss and the Avenue rental car.
Yes.
Okay.
And me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a falling out, and so I put my helmet bag leaving East Moline right on Herschel's trailer. He looked at me and he says, "You ready to run some Deary shows?" I said, "Yeah, here we go."
Let's go.
We took off, and June was the first race I drove a Deary race for him.
Yeah.
We went to up in southern Iowa somewhere, and it was actually
Independence. I mean,
not Independence, but
Southern Iowa?
up in northern Iowa.
Northern Iowa.
okay. Well, go ahead.
Marshalltown?
No, I'm trying to think of, but you.
No, we can keep guessing, Boon.
Yeah, right.
I mean, too many tracks.
Yeah.
You know, if you'd only run one track, this would have been a lot
It'd
easier.
been a lot easier.
Yeah.
You're right.
Right.
But anyway, we went to this track, and it got rained out, and I was in the Avenue rental car at that
Okay.
time we was there the first time, and I got wrecked in the heat race.
All right.
And when we went back, I was with Herschel then.
Okay.
So I was going to finish that race, but all they were going to run was a semi-features and a feature.
Oh, boy.
They was got running. No, the heat races were completed.
Wow.
They said I could not run the 58 car.
Okay.
I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What if I go buy it?" "I don't care if you buy it or what you do. You're not racing that car," IMCA told me.
Oh, jeez.
I says, Herschel at his garage, I says, "Herschel, there's only one way they can stop us." I says, "We got to put 12 on it."
Okay.
Because I was there in 12 in the rain out.
Yeah.
He went and made the 12 up and pop riveted over 58. And we unloaded out of Kammerer's semi.
Okay.
Kammerer wanted to go up there and race too, because we was going from there to another track the next night.
Okay.
Kammerer was going to run the second night, but Herschel was going to run 58 on that car using his motor, because
All right.
Kammerer didn't have a motor.
Okay.
So Herschel put his spare motor in it. And we went up there, and IMCA, as soon as they seen that, we already knew some people were over before we even got to the track complaining to the officials.
Yeah.
They come over and said they was going to tell me that I ain't going to race that car until it came out of that enclosed trailer,
Okay.
and it had 12 on it. They told them people around there that we can't do nothing about it. That's his number.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got to race that car that night, and
Did you get in the show?
here's what they told me to do. I was up there in points too. They
Sure.
said, "You're not going to take a provisional. You got to race your way in." I had to start the back of one of the B mains.
Oh, man.
So I won the B main.
Okay. You raced your way in.
Started 13th because the top 12 was qualified out of them heats,
Okay.
and went on and won the feature.
Oh, my God, that's a story. Oh, you know, there's people just stomping their feet and screaming and pulling their hair out.
Yeah.
Now, Ray, if you had run in the back all the time, they wouldn't have cared if you
No.
came up in a different car or any of that.
Well, if I'd done that, then I wouldn't have got nobody boo for me.
Yeah, that's right. So we're talking about now, are we in 2009 or 10?
2009, we go on, and we win 5 Deary shows that year,
My God.
and broke a motor in 2 of them leading.
Oh,
So we
jeez.
should have won 7 and the championship. I would have won the championship if it wasn't
Okay.
for them 2 DNFs. But we went, so in 09, Herschel brought me over to his house. Him and Kenny set me down in Herschel's kitchen table
Okay.
and talked about 2010.
All right.
He said, "We want to go for the championship.
All right.
We want you to drive full time." I says, "The only thing I can tell you right now, Herschel, is if you want to go after championship, we're going to have to step up your program on the maintenance.
Okay.
Can't go out having DNFs like we did last year in them couple features. If you
Yeah.
want to win a championship, you got to be there and finish."
Now, were you talking about, did they have to upgrade their motor program too?
They didn't have to do that. They just, the maintenance itself, we needed to go through things better.
Sure.
So, I mean, I started helping them out by doing the valve training and motor after races and
Okay.
and going through their transmission.
All right.
And then he had his brothers helping him. Herschel
remember
did.
that.
Yep. And they were doing a lot of maintenance on them. Because I still worked a job, but them guys was there during the day.
Sure.
So usually when I got done with work and go over, some of them were going home because they'd been there all day.
Yeah.
But I'd come over and help. And Herschel even admitted to me, he says, you know, I hired you to drive, but you ain't got to be here doing this. I said, Herschel, I enjoy doing it with you. I just want us to go good. The only other advice I gave him then was, if you want to travel up and down the road, do Deary Series, you should put new trailer tires on. Because there's too many times we blow tires out going to a race,
Oh,
and then
my
you're
gosh,
late trying
come on.
to get over the side of the interstate and
Yeah.
change tires. Sure enough, he took it, had 4 new tires put on that trailer before we
Man.
went racing that year.
That's great. So 10 was a great year for you guys.
Oh, big time.
I mean, you guys were winning everything. How many features did you win in 2010, Ray?
I'd have to ask Kenny that.
Yeah, Kenny would know.
Kenny would know.
He would know.
He's
That's
have
Kenny.
it. I tell you the truth, I don't remember. I know in the, because we won the national title and the Deary. I think we won like 5 or 6 more Deary shows that year, and then 20 some features, right around 20 maybe, somewhere in there in the IMCA regular
Sure.
season national point thing.
Yeah.
But so I mean, it wasn't big numbers. It was still good numbers.
Sure. Sure. So I want to ask you, how did you like Boon Speedway when you ran up there? You guys would run there Monday of the Super Nationals. They moved that around. Then it was on Friday, but
Yeah.
you know, initially it was Monday. How did you like that track up there at Boone?
You know, it's kind of, you don't know what you're going to get because they farm it so much.
Every 10 races?
Exactly. So usually before our race, it somewhere got farmed early, so the track was usually pretty fast to start. But
Okay.
sometimes it'd blow off and get slowed up a lot more towards the end of the 50 lapper.
Yeah.
But all in all, it's a great racetrack, and I kind of like the fact that they did probably farm it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd get out and it'd be really greasy,
I know.
really sloppy yet. So you just didn't know what you's going to get for a racetrack.
Yeah, and the thing that was kind of tough is, you know, a 50-lap race, you might have to run 10, 15 laps to get it packed in before you could even, you know,
You're right.
get rolling.
You're right.
And so you're sitting there thinking, okay, now we're down to 35, and I ain't went anywhere yet.
Yep, you're
So
right.
it made a big difference.
But I mean, all in all, it's a great racetrack.
Sure, it is. I
Definitely
love
is.
it up there.
Yes, it is a great racetrack. But my first 2 years going there, because I'd never ever had run
Yeah.
that race, and the first 2 years with Herschel was 2010 and 11.
Sure.
And we went and won it them back-to-back years.
My God. And you know what? The good Lord was on your side that year. I remember one race, you know, I wasn't there, but Kenny was telling me you guys had the tire go flat when you were sitting in victory lane.
That would have been
Knoxville,
Knoxville, Iowa.
Knoxville, Iowa.
That
Julie,
was,
you
that
knew,
was
didn't
the
you?
race. Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
My dad was even there that race. See, the first time we ever went there for a Deary, we blew the engine in
Okay.
the heat race.
All right.
So Herschel was so upset. So I was so glad we got a chance to go back there because we were fast that night.
Okay.
And after I got the checkered, I moved up the track because I thought, all right, I'm just going to go up here and try it. I about knocked the fence down after the checkers.
The checkers.
Yeah, it wouldn't turn.
Right.
So I went across the scales in the infield and then pulled the victory lane.
Okay.
By the time I was there, the right front was on the rim.
Oh, my God.
That's why just after I got the checkered, I went in turn one and was going to try the high side, and it didn't turn.
Wouldn't turn.
I was just that close to not finishing that race.
Yeah. So now that Knoxville, Iowa, that was a different track.
Oh, definitely.
Man, when I ran up there, that thing had a lot of bite in that racetrack. And you could always, you know, do a little searching around. You could find it. But what did you like, Ray? All the years you raced, quarter mile, 3/8, half mile, what was your favorite?
I didn't have on size-wise, I have a favorite, but one that I dominated for 2 years was getting with Eckridge and going to West Liberty.
I mean, that track is so...
We never lost one feature race except for ones we broke. I won every feature for 2 years.
You know how depressing that was for everybody else? Like, well, Ray's here, so I guess tonight's another second.
It was amazing that,
Yeah.
I mean, we was even able to pull that off, but then the nights that we break, we was sitting in the infield, but that didn't happen often with 50. He
was on it.
He was on it too,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so West Liberty up there, I go up there now, and, you know, it's such a beautiful facility, and the fairgrounds are beautiful. And Mark Kalupa, one of the guys that's on the fair board, I talked to him and said, Mark, you guys have got to figure out a way to get the wall painted, paint the building, and it doesn't need anything but just spruced up a little bit.
Yeah.
And he said, we got to get that done, but, along comes COVID, and their main source of revenue is the fair, and all of a sudden you got no revenue. So I love that track, and I wish they'd just get it, spruce it up a little bit.
That is my favorite track, too.
I really
Always
like
has
going
been.
up there, yeah.
How many tracks have oak trees in the pit area?
I mean, come on, Julie. And that's why when you look at a picture, pick out whoever you want that's racing. You go, there's an oak tree. That is West Liberty. So that was something else. And then any other favorite tracks you had?
Oh, I'll tell you, back in the day, I'd loved Davenport's quarter mile. Back in the day, I think what's happening nowadays, it started turning me off a little bit on some of this, is that racetracks, I don't know if what's happening to them, they just don't seem to be what they were 20 years ago.
Here's what I'd say, Ray. Like, when COVID hit, we couldn't have anybody in the grandstands over there at Davenport.
Oh, I know.
Remember
I watched you on TV.
Yeah.
Everybody over there.
So I'm over there. I'm out in the grandstands. We got the camera crew and the sound crew.
Yep.
But it was the eeriest thing I ever seen because, I'm used to, when I started out going to the races, you had the Guss fans and you had the Whedon fans, and they were all in their blue 00 outfits, and you had the Mel Morris fans. And, you know how it was. You were there.
Right.
And all of a sudden we got nobody up here, and I thought, how are we going to make money? Well, Kelly at Done Right said, you know what, I'm going to invest some money and buy some cameras and all that. And we ended up buying enough equipment for one film crew, and by the end of the season, we had enough equipment for 4 film crews. Oh. And so when I started looking at people across America watching those races, I think promoters at one point were scared that, hey, if we get a camera crew in here, people will sit at home and they'll watch it and they won't come to the racetrack. Right. Well, I think just the opposite happened. You get people like, Grandma may not be healthy and she can watch it on TV and watch her grandson race. So we had people from Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Missouri, Minnesota, Canada, Mexico. I talked to the guy, we had a little chat room we could talk in while I'm announcing, and I said, well, Mexico, how'd you feel, how'd you find out about this race in Iowa? And he said, I used to work up there. He worked at one of the robotic welder factories, and a company in Mexico hired him to run their factory. Okay. And he said, I don't get to come home much, but he said, man, every time I see Davenport Speedway on TV, I'm home. So he pays the money.
I'll be darned. That's great.
And so since COVID, all of a sudden we could have, a few people in the pit area. I think they allowed 10 per car. And I thought, man, I don't remember a pit crew or a car that's got 10 people in the pits. But now all of a sudden our car count was 165 opening night. Oh, my God. And night number 2, we had 184 cars. And I thought, my God, this is just amazing. Mm-hmm. So what I've seen, and not at all tracks, but what I've seen is kind of a resurgence. We've seen an upward trend now on, dirt track racing, the attendance, the people that are watching on TV. I think podcasts like this help. The TV broadcasting helps. And Friday night over at Davenport, we had 36 sport mods, 25 mods. We had 28 late models. The numbers that I've seen in the last 2 years, there's been an upward trend to them at all the tracks that I've worked at, which we need that.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Because when you and I were young, Ray, we built our race cars, and you built the parts. You built your own upper control arms. You didn't run down to Buggy or, Dealer X and buy them. You built all that stuff.
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the things we've lost now is it's too easy for people with, a fat wallet to run out and
just buy whatever they got to have.
Buy whatever they need.
And what I like about the TV part now that you're seeing more of it is sponsors.
Yeah.
Sponsors now can have their name seen, and that's what it's all about.
Sure.
Paying the bills.
All right. And done right means we got to pay the bills, too. Here we go. Good segue, Ray. All right. Once again, thank you to Done Right TV and Security for the amazing support for your television, internet, and video productions, smart life, and security specialist needs. Call the people who are going to get the job done right. Again, their number is 563-355-7490. And the Done Right store location is right here at 1414 West Locust Street in Davenport, Iowa. So that's it. That's it for the ads for tonight. Let's see. Where were we at, Ray? We were talking about broadcasting on TV and what that's done
exactly.
for. So, it helps out the sponsors, and it gives you guys so much more exposure.
That's what I'm saying.
Now that you're on TV. I mean, it's great.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you from an announcer standpoint, I used to always be quiet when they were coming down the front stretch because, you're not going to talk over an 800 horsepower motor. But when you're announcing on TV, you're live all the time. So you got to fill all the gaps.
You got to fill the gaps.
Yeah.
And you just keep on rolling. And it just it's kind of enjoyable. I get a lot of texts and emails from race fans from all around just saying they really enjoy watching the race at Davenport, and they've moved to this state or that state. And, my whole life, my favorite track's Davenport Speedway. And my God, I grew up there as a kid, and I remember sitting in the stands when the Hemi, Jim Gerbers of the world were out there and all the old guys, and those cars just had a different sound to them. But you knew every late model running out there. I mean, I remember your dad had probably a 70 Nova, and he got the body for it out of the old Lakeside Auto out there in Andalusia Road, drug it back and built a race car. But, you build all your own stuff. And, when you're on the racetrack and you beat somebody, hey, that was my engine that beat him, my car that I built and all that stuff. So one of the things that I think we got to work on is trying to figure out how can we lower the cost of racing.
Oh, big time.
So now, I know the engine shops don't like crate motors, but I know Jeff Morris, when I was talking to him, the last year he ran open motors, and it's an open wheel car. He spent $34,000 on engines. And, the guy owns his own business, so he's okay with that. But it's still $34,000.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So he orders a crate motor, $7,500, and then had to go out and buy the crate carb, crate headers, crate fan, crate distributor. Right. But he said that I didn't include in the cost. It was just a conversion cost. But he put that motor in, and they ran the end of the season and through most of the next season. And he said all of a sudden my engine cost goes from $34,000 to $7,500. That helps.
Right, because that $34,000 didn't include that carburetor and that headers. Yeah. It didn't include. You still had to go buy that.
Still got to go buy it. Yeah,
that was extra.
So what I hope today, when you and I were kids and we're sitting up in the grandstands over there at Davenport, we could say, hey, I like that. It looks fun. Let's build a race car. And, I went out and bought an old clunky Dodge pickup truck, an old clunky trailer, and built a street stock car, and I wasn't making no money, and I went out there and went racing. So I know we're not going to return to those days, but I want to see a day where
I know you're not
people that love racing, they can still jump in a car and go.
Because my dad said that when he started racing, $150 after he blew a motor up, he'd go get it at a junkyard and go racing the next night.
Yeah, that's right. Put a cam in it and let's go.
Let's go. Yeah.
So those days are long gone. So in the days as you moved into your final championship, 10, 11, 12, that was the first time that had been done in IMCA, in the history of IMCA. Somebody winning 3 in a row. Now, Justin Kai, the Flying Farmer, come back, and he's done that 3 in a row since then. But you were the first one to do it, Ray. So did you stay with the same motor program throughout the Herschel Roberts years, or did you?
No, we had the Gus Staff engines in it when I first got in it. They ran good. They ran
a lot of horsepower.
Yeah. They ran really good. But then we started having them problems where we broke a couple in that, and Herschel wanted to change.
Okay.
I had run a modified for somebody before that had a Mullins motor in it.
Oh, boy.
And I said, I don't know this Mullen very well. I haven't really met him, but I says, I'll get us a meeting with him if you'd like to talk, because I said, that's somebody that's doing spec motors not crate motors, but he's doing spec motors for modifieds.
Yeah. Let's
talk to him, because nobody up here had one. I said, and I felt good. I felt the motor run very well in that modified. So I says, let's give it a shot. And he said, yeah. So we all three of us, Kenny and Herschel and I, we drove down to Mullen's shop and talked to him and stuff. And he wanted us to bring one of the motors. And good thing we didn't go race that one again, because he was going to dyno it before he tore it down.
Okay.
It had valve train broke in it. So.
Gee. So, and you know what's frustrating is, you know, there were nights early on with Herschel that, you know, you'd have, engine failure. And you're like, man, we could have won that thing if that engine wouldn't let go. So, you know, at some point, you got to bite the bullet and buy something that's got some reliability to it.
Yep,
and those Mullins motors, you know, when you look at motors, no matter what brand they are, you know, you kind of say, okay, I've been watching this, and I see a lot of them blow up, so I don't want to buy that one. If you got to spend a little more to get a Mullins, that was a good investment at that time.
Actually, what Herschel told me, though, what he was paying, he didn't end up paying no more to go to Mullins.
No
so
kidding.
people thought we had more money in our motors. No,
Yeah.
he didn't have more money in them.
Okay.
No, price-wise, he paid him the same. And we ended up with some pretty reliable years out of his stuff.
All right. So do you have any other hobbies besides racing? I know your dad had that hot rod. Do you own that now, Ray? That
Yes.
red car?
Yes,
Okay.
my dad, when he always told me that when he went, that I was going to inherit his 40. That's his pride, that 48 Plymouth. He put a lot of years of work into that thing.
Oh, my God, that's a beautiful car.
And he's rebuilt it even one time after doing the original.
Okay.
And he's completely tore it apart and did it again. And then the second time put a Hemi in it.
Yeah.
Took the Chevy motor out of it. But I still have that at home in the garage, and we'll get it out once in a while on a nice Sunday or something when I got time. But kind of took up camping, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of boring.
All right. You know what, though? There's something, you know, my wife said to me over the weekend, we have a permanent campsite out at New Windsor out
Do
there
you?
at Shady Lakes.
Okay, I didn't know how to come out and see it.
Oh, man, I'm telling you what, Ray, they got 3 lakes out there. They've got Pee Wee Golf. They got a drive-in movie theater for the little kids. They'll play like Cars on the weekend and all that stuff for the kids.
Yeah.
A couple of nice playgrounds, a general store, and all kinds of stuff. So it's really an enjoyable time out there. And
Yes.
I get out there, you know, you're around the racetrack, and I never wore earplugs, so my ears are shot.
Well, I did. So.
Okay, you're a lucky guy.
Yeah.
But I was one of the idiots. I just thought, I want to hear the motor. And, you know, now I can't hear nothing.
Yeah.
So we get out there to the campgrounds, though, and all of a sudden we're sitting on our deck. We're right off the lake, and, you know, you see Mother Nature out there doing their thing. And I always think, man, you go for these two extremes. You got this, you know, this high horsepower racing, and, you know, you're full throttle, and, you know, it's like your hair's on fire and you're going crazy. And then you're sitting there at the tranquility of a lake watching the ducks fly in, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, at this stage of my life, I'm okay with it. So to wrap this thing up, Keith Simmons, you drove that 38 car for a couple of years. Are you planning on driving that vintage car yet this year?
Yes. Right now, he has still been rebuilding it, and
Okay.
he's going to see his truck got messed up too. His hauler.
Yeah.
In that big storm they had in Cedar Rapids.
Right.
Tree come down on his garage and got the cab, so they've been working on it too to get it rebuilt back up.
Yeah.
And she told me they posted on Facebook that evidently July 11th
Okay.
at East Moline they're planning on might be their first race out.
Okay. You know those vintage guys don't like you racing with them, Ray.
They don't.
You start dead last every night and you win the
'Cause
feature.
I must rub on them too hard.
Something like it. No, that car is beautiful. And you know, I look at you guys and you're sitting down in Victory Lane, and I think, man, look at the history we got here with Ray and with Keith Simmons and on down the line.
Yes.
I just think, my God, these, you know, they've done it all. And now they're just, you know, out there having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
it's a lot of fun. That's when I first jumped in that car. He asked me to.
Sure.
And I got in it, and it's back in the old leaf spring cars
Yeah,
back in the day.
back in
and
the
there's
day.
no
Big
suspension.
block.
Big block. He supposedly this winter though, one of his things was he built a small block, so people was
boy.
complaining that big block was
She got
beating
hot.
them. Yeah, it got hot a few times.
Man, when we were up there at Liberty one night, and I come over to lean on the fender, and she was spitting out a little steam, and I thought, oh boy, better watch that. And old Keith come out, and I said, hey, this thing's getting a little hot. And he says, yeah, them big blocks always did run hot. So it was kind of funny. So, hey, we got to wrap this thing up. We've been chatting for an hour.
Yeah.
In closing, is there anything you want to say, Ray, Julie? You know, it's been a good life. You've had a lot of fun.
It has.
Hopefully there's another 30 years.
Yes. Just to thank all the fans and family that followed
Definitely.
him and supported him the 38 years he raced, and
38. Wow.
38 years,
Yeah.
yes.
And how many years have you been married, Julie?
We just celebrated 39.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't it? She stayed with me that long.
Hey, you know what? That is true. When you've been racing that long,
Yes.
any woman who puts up with that.
You're right.
I mean, you know, you had your mom was one of a kind, and Julie's one of a kind.
Yeah.
Stick with you through thick and thin, the wins, the losses, all that
That's
stuff.
right.
And you know, it's kind of special. How about you, Ray? You got anything you want to say in closing?
Well, that's the same thing I wanted to say is thank all the fans, all the years, and the close family that we've had that supported me, and all the friends. It's just been it's been a good ride.
Good.
It's been a good ride.
All right. Well, hey, that'll about wrap it up for the show this week. Thanks for coming on, Ray. Thanks for coming on, Julie. And make sure and share this with your friends out there listening to the podcast right now. Share it on all your favorite pages and let them hear about all the good times with Ray Guss Jr. and Julie. So this is your announcer, Shane Davis, saying God bless all of you out there, and we'll be seeing you around the track.